It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the ring.
Welcome to the Japan What Podcast, episode 200. And I'm your host, Matthew PMBigelow.com. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The armpit of Asia. Covering Japan Society 5.0, AI markets and trends, rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific, the supply chain wars, and migration. Cheery topics all around. And thank you for coming along the adventure that is today's show. We're going through a severe cold snap in Tokyo, where even the air feels like it's trying to murder you. So there's that. But on the plus side, I guess we're all alive. So today we're going to be looking at quite a few topics here. And I wanted to begin with a little bit of domestic news. And this is what I like to call Japanese numbers, which just they're so astronomically high sometimes. You just read it and you kind of go, okay. Japan's total debt hits a record 1.3 quadrillion yen in 2024. Quadrillion. Remember when the financial collapse happened in 2008? The Lehman shock, as it's called in Japan, or the Great Reset or whatever it was. No, that's Klaus Schwab. Anyways, the banking crisis of 2008. Everybody was talking like, how crazy is it that we're using the word billions? Well, 15 years later, and we're in quadrillions now. Japan's fiscal health further worsened at the end of 2024, Finance Ministry data showed Monday, with the total debt climbing to a record 1.32 quadrillion yen. That's 8.83 trillion US dollars, by the way, which is still astronomically high. Who's going to pay for this? The total debt is more than twice the size of Japan's economy and the largest among advanced economies, due partly to ballooning social security and national defense costs. The debt, increasing 31.18 trillion yen from a year earlier, includes government bonds, borrowing from private banks, and financing bills. As of the end of December, the state's debt consisted of 1.17 quadrillion yen in bonds, 46.88 trillion yen in borrowing, and 97 trillion yen in financing bills, according to the ministry. I don't know if that's good or not. Everybody says, yeah, well, Japan's debt's so high, but, it's their own debt. I mean, they own it. So, and I even do that. It's like, well, spending is high, but at least Japan owns that debt. And everyone goes, yes, at least Japan owns that debt. And we just move on to the next topic as if that's like a cherry on top or a nice bow on top or an umeboshi on top of the rice on a bento that you're going to be traveling with for some time. Maybe that's the metaphor here. Our spending is like a bento, and you constantly have to put umeboshi on top of it to cover up the horrible smell. And everyone just looks at the umeboshi and goes, didn't like those at first, but after a while, when you get used to them, they're pretty tasty. Let's move on to the next topic. Can you believe that? 1.3 quadrillion yen? Population's plummeting right now, so I'm not sure what spending is going to look like. But at the same time, it feels like the entire economy is structured around support for the elderly. And that's what all of the politicians are basically doing, supporting the elderly. And the politicians are like 60 years old, and I'm 40 years old, and then there's the 20 years old, and then there's the under the 20s who will be 20 in 20 years and all that. I'm trying to go through like generational things here. How will Japan change its system of governance when the aging population peters out and dies? I mean, in the next 10, 15 years, we're going to see such a dramatic fall off in population, the funding of this stuff will not need to occur to the degree that it does now. And then the taxation coming off of the younger people will not be as what it used to be. And they don't make money anymore. They make very little money, young in Japan. So it's going to be interesting. Like, will the government, will the politicians be able to pivot and totally change the way they do things? Or will there be like 7 elderly people and the entire existing infrastructure will still be on track to only focus on securing immense amounts of tax revenue to support the elderly, even though there's almost no elderly, but that's just what the government does and they don't know how to change. One of those things, it just occurred to me now. How do you continue to fund that? Tourism? We'll just tax the tourists? Anyways, 1.3 quadrillion yen. We're in the quadrillions now in 2025. We might be in for a gold reset. I'm not sure what that means, but there's tons of gold flowing out of the UK and back into America. And right at the moment here, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are talking about auditing Fort Knox, which is their main vault where they keep the gold. And as somebody who likes to dip my toes into the old theories of conspiracy, the idea of doing a walkthrough through Fort Knox is almost like a giddiness inside of me, because it's something like you read about once or twice and then you listen to an interview and the guy who's like doesn't believe that there's any gold in Fort Knox is like, I don't think there's any gold in there. I don't think the guards even have bullets in their guns. And you're like, huh. And then you look into it again and it's just the same thing. I don't think there's any gold in there. I don't even think the guards have bullets in their guns. And you're like, well, I've heard that before. Where's the update? So 20 years later, we have this update potentially where they might go through Fort Knox and audit the gold. One interesting position on this is that just by looking at some recent analysis, there's a strategic advantage, like a Schrodinger's cat. Is the cat dead or not dead? I don't know how it gets to that conclusion. We just say Schrodinger's cat and we both nod and agree. Yes, Japan owns its own debt. But in this case, if it has the gold or if it doesn't have the gold, it creates like an ambiguity in the whole world. And they kind of, do we want to know or do we not want to know? Do they have it? Do they not have it? What does that even mean? So it's like this a shroud of ambiguity over the Fort Knox situation there. But the idea that we can just continue to trundle along these economic paths where it's just the ballooning debt and it just goes on and on and on, probably not a good thing for the foreseeable future. And that's why there's this idea of BRICS using a gold-backed currency, the unit, and America as well, collecting all the gold and then launching a gold-backed meme coin, cryptocurrency, the US dollar as a cryptocurrency backed by gold. That's one idea that's going on here. I'm not sure if Japan would be in on that. It's largely frowned upon in Japan. Kasotsuka, as it's called, digital currencies or cryptocurrencies. Ango sareta mane. But there's some insight there. As you can see, I'm not looking forward to what's after quadrillion? Cinctillion? Cinctillion in debt? I'm not sure what that even means. But, just passing it along. But at least we own it, right? All right, let's take a look at what I'll do here is I'll just play this one. Weird Corner. Let's take a look at the supply chain war. Die for the war, everybody moves. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. Coming to us from navalnews.com, I inadvertently followed one of the Japanese writers for this on X, and he'll sometimes publish something like, I published this new thing on Naval News. And I'm like, well, it kind of fits into the supply chain war. On the Japan What podcast, the supply chain war is is as it seems. There's a supply chain, and we are at war. There's the BRICS on one side and the G7 on the other side. And sometimes the supply chain war is about gaining access to the supply chains or getting more market share within the supply chains or creating new supply chains. Sometimes it's about oil. Sometimes it's about goods and services, or sometimes it's about setting up new systems that circumvent the use of the US dollar. And as you can see with the conflicts recently, I like to say this every time, Ukraine, Russia, there's G7 on one side, there's BRICS on the other. Palestine, Israel, G7 on one side, BRICS on the other. And then as Russia and China kind of move into the Arctic, there's G7 on one side and BRICS on the other. So wherever you look at this, it's too coincidental for it to always fall on such even lines. I'm not going to go too much into it because this one focuses more today on the naval aspect of it. Japan launches 4th Hibiki-class auxiliary ocean surveillance ship for the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Forces. That's a beautiful ship, by the way, and I'll be posting pictures of the ship at MatthewPMBigelow.com. That's MatthewPMBigelow.com, where you can go for all things Japan what? The new auxiliary ocean surveillance ship, which has been named Bingo. Yes, that's the name. Bingo. Entered the water in a ceremony held at the company shipyard in Tamano City, southern Okayama Prefecture recently. The vessel is named after the Bingo Sea, which is an area of water in the central part of the Seto Inland Sea. All ships of the Hibiki class are named after famous nada, or seas, along the coasts of each region. The shipyard will now proceed to the fitting out stage of the ship ahead of its delivery and commissioning set for March 2026. The small waterplane area twin hull vessel is expected to be inducted into the Ocean Surveillance Division at Kyurei Naval Base in Hiroshima Prefecture. A JMSDF spokesperson told Naval News, this division is the JMSDF's only surveillance division. The spokesperson told Naval News that the Bingo is being built for about 19.6 billion yen, or $129 million, under a contract awarded in March 2023. And it looks like it's equipped with like a variety of course, surveillance equipment, but this also includes like a surveillance array. It has a towed surveillance array, and it's a low-frequency array of hydrophones that is deployed from surface ships and receives acoustic data. It's kind of an interesting way of hiding the way that you detect submarines or detect other threats that could be looming underneath the waves. We're not going to go too much into it because it's going to be commissioned next year. They're just on the way of commissioning it. So and that comes to us from the Kosuke Takahashi, a defense writer based in Japan. Now, the reason I'm including that is because that's one ship that we can see. But if we take a look at, I did some prompting into Grok, the large language model, and I know that China's Navy, the People's Liberation Army Navy, the plan, are on a tear right now with shipbuilding. So that's one surveillance ship that Japan rolled out that will be in use next year. And after prompting and compiling data and then creating little lists and things like that, this is what I got from Grok based on China. The China Navy likely deployed between 100 and 150 ships in the past 12 months. Named deployments, there's around 20 to 30 ships from high-profile events such as Carriers Arctic and the Australia Task Group. It has routine operations, which would likely involve 50 to 100 additional ships for patrols, exercises, and regional shows of force, and also for fleet rotation. And total unique ships, considering the plan's 234 warships and 370 plus total vessels, and assuming that 20 to 40% of the fleet saw deployment in some capacity, 70 to 150 unique ships could have been deployed over the past year. But without real-time fleet tracking or an official plan report, I'd estimate approximately 100 to 150 planned ships were deployed in various capacities from February 21st, 2024 to February 21st, 2025. This reflects China's naval tempo, frequent multi-theater operations with a mix of surface combatants, carriers, and support ships. There we go. So we have one ship deployed. Well, that's good. Everybody says, well, these Chinese ships are just junk. China's actually getting pretty good at this stuff now, it appears. And even if it's not as good as 100 and it would be like, could you fight 150 9-year-old boys if they were to swarm you? If you had like a great automatic rifle and had like 39 rounds in it, and you were in the middle of a jungle and like, let's just say 500 elephants started running at you and they wanted to destroy you and take your skin as a prized hide, would you be able to, with your advanced weapon, be able to destroy all the elephants and emerge on top? Probably not. And China is often described as a tiger or as a dragon, but I think now we're going to go with elephants. The Chinese elephant in the room of the oceans. Let's take a look next at some more supply chain wars. So building for contingencies. Recently, interestingly enough, Japan has allowed people to list Taiwan as a birthplace for record keeping and stuff like that, which is significant because most countries would say we have the one China policy, which recognizes China as the only place where you can register your birth. But now Japan's gone ahead and said, no, actually we're gonna put Taiwan as an option there too, which is, significant. With the amount of disruptive operations that China is doing in the South China Sea right now, a lot of people are kind of preparing for the inevitable, it seems. Who knows? Maybe China just wants that area for its supply chain routes and will back off. China's just going to back off. 7 cities in Fukuoka. I'm sorry, this comes to us from yahoo.co.jp news, and we are recording this on February 21st, 2025. 7 cities in Fukuoka Prefecture plan to accept 47,000 evacuees in case of Taiwan emergency. Omuta, Izuka, Tagawa, and Asakura cities also plan to accept evacuees from Okinawa's Sakishima Islands. Probably more like 1 million or 3 million. If you know about the supply chain or the island chains connecting Japan to its southern island of Kyushu, and then these are kind of like these little strings of archipelagos that go all the way down to Taiwan, and then a few million people from mainland China escaped onto Taiwan in the late 40s. What type of equipment did they have back then? 30s or 40s? I can't remember when. Forgive me. But imagine now with what they got. Maybe just 49,000 people will escape Taiwan in case of contingencies. On the 17th of February, Fukuoka Prefecture announced the outline of initial plan to accept approximately 47,000 people from those areas I just talked about. The national government is planning to evacuate approximately 120,000 residents and others from Okinawa's Sakishima Islands to 8 prefectures in Kyushu and Yamaguchi with a Taiwan emergency in mind, and has asked Fukuoka Prefecture to drop a plan to accept 47,000 people from additional islands. We're not going to go too much into it because it's just more numbers repeating themselves. Yeah. And so there we go. Just an extra idea there for the supply chain wars, the weaponizing people as well. So if, for example, China does make a move on Taiwan and we have, it says 47,000 people, but let's just logically say 500,000 to 1 million people make a march to Japan. Well, that's a weaponized form of migration because now as Japan is expected to participate in the defense of Taiwan with the Philippines and America, Japan also has to simultaneously deal with millions of people trying to get into the island. And then what do you do with your resources once they're there? How do you manage all those people as you're trying to also send down warships to go and help the good friends of Taiwan, defend themselves against the Chinese? I was going to say, beat off the people of China. It's like, no, don't say that. But now I said it. So that would be another way of disrupting local supply chains in Japan. And if China does a blockade of transport ships to Japan, well, now we have a decrease in goods coming to the country, while at the same time having a massive increase of people. All the tourism would be gone, thankfully, so maybe we'd be able to have even more space. But that's just one idea of how these things might interact. And recently, some Chinese ships have been dragging their anchors across subsea cables in the Baltic Ocean there by Finland and Denmark and stuff like that. A couple of them went down. And at the same time now, it's happening closer to home. And I'm not sure why they are doing this, but there might be a reason, like maybe China has access to like these AI strategies where they prompt strategies to disrupt rival nations down the road, like in those games of chess or Go, the Japanese or Chinese version of chess with the white and black markers. It's the AI will place like a white circle piece in the middle of nowhere, but that like 2 hours later in the game, that's like a decisive factor in how the AI beat the human opponent. The human would never think that far ahead, but the AI was able to extrapolate. So with this like idea of China's ships dragging their anchors across subsea cables, they might have access to such things and be like, well, if data is going to be the oil of the 21st century, if we can have faster data that's traversing over land in China and through our wireless systems, in order to gain an advantage over our rivals, we would need to cut off their data transfer flows. And those are mainly subsea cables. So if we disrupt their subsea cable traffic, it's going to limit the amount of data that can go through them. And that potentially gives us an advantage with AI. Who knows? But that's just one idea. Taipei. Tsinghua Telecom reported Monday that an undersea cable connecting Taiwan and the outlying Matsu Islands has been disconnected due to an abnormality. The company said the Taiwan Matsu No. 2 cable experienced an abnormal fault in the core wires at 12:49 p.m. However, communications services automatically switched to microwave transmission, ensuring that voice calls, internet access, and other services remained unaffected for Matsu users. The Ministry of Digital Affairs said Tsinghua Telecom notified it on Sunday of planned repairs, but the core wires snapped again, escalating the issue into total disconnection. Following protocol, the telecom mobilized personnel to conduct measurements and notified the Coast Guard if weather conditions permit, blah, 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 blah. So they're wondering if this was done by perhaps a Chinese vessel going through the area. And Taiwan is that main island of Formosa, but it has a whole bunch of inhabited islands throughout the Taiwan Strait. And some of them, like the Kinmen Islands, are like only a couple kilometers from China's mainland. And China might try to annex them through, cultural appropriation or whatever. But also, if you disconnect these islands from Taiwan, it gives you potentially a way to provide access to them through your own services or something like that. So if China then restores communications to those islands, maybe those islands would be more sympathetic towards China because they're just going with the flow. And you don't really know the degree of which how many people in Taiwan would like to remain Taiwanese. I guess it's pretty high. But also, how many of them wouldn't mind going along with China? We don't know. We don't know these things. These things do not really occur or are reported on easily in media or news and stuff like that. So there we go. So that's going to be the supply chain war for today. Japan making some decent chips. China making 150. And Japan planning for contingencies in which we have to accept a dispersed population as China potentially goes through those areas, disrupting communications between those people who would eventually, potentially, come onto Japanese lands. Die for the war, everybody move. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0. A technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are. AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities, helping us enjoy more fulfilling lives. Society 5.0 for the betterment of human lives.
All right, that's the Japan government. Society 5.0, what they want to do is make everything AI. And that's basically what they're doing. Everything must be AI. And when I first started covering this 10 years ago, it was super fringe. And I have to plumb the depths of the internet to find relevant information to even make it a segment. Often I couldn't. In the past 5 years, I've been able to make it a segment every time or make it the kind of the focus of the show. In the past year, now I'm drinking from the fire hose. I have a teacup, and I'm going up to countless amounts of fire hydrants that are just spewing water in all directions at all time of the day. And I'm trying to fill the cup, but you can't. So it's definitely going on. Yeah, it's not really what you would think. It's not noticeable. When you're in China, it's noticeable. They make you notice it. They want you to notice it. They have the cameras positioned up everywhere, letting you know that they're AI cameras. There's screens that shame you. You jaywalk, and it's like, hey, you're jaywalking. Your name is this, and you're jaywalking. It'll announce your name on the street, shaming you. And things like they put AI cameras up in classrooms, and then you get your child report sent to you based on their performance in the classroom that day with AI camera emotional readings of your child and your test results from your child, but also everybody else's child in the classroom. So it's like this constant reminder that the government is there and it's watching you, and it's positioning itself as being everywhere all the time. Another interesting one is having to scan a QR code to get into a store as a security measure. But then there's also a facial recognition camera positioned there, so it will match your face to the phone. And if you're using your dad's phone to go into a store, it will punish you somehow. There will be punishment. So there's all these ways of it just letting you know all the time, but it's very convenient. But in Japan, it's spreading everywhere, but it's more non-noticeable. We don't really see it, but it is spreading everywhere. Just one example of a similar nature would be putting AI cameras in the side of a bus, and the bus goes around this route around town. And as it goes past construction sites, it will photograph the construction site and use some computer vision analytics to see if the construction site is operating within the legal boundaries that it's allowed to do so. And it sends that data back to municipal city headquarters, and somebody there looks at it, sees if it's in line or not. Whereas people before would go to different sites and check to see that everything is being done. But now it's just a bus, and you don't even notice that there's a hole in the side of the bus, and it's using AI analytics to look at your construction site in real time. It's an unseen revolution is the point. And this is this is connecting. We're kind of going back between as a comparative theme. Between is it convenient or is it authoritarian, right? That's always what we're kind of dealing with here. This comes to us from metrotokyo.lg.jp. It's translated from Japanese. So, release of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government's official Tokyo app begins with a service that awards points to participants who take part in socially meaningful activities. That sounds familiar. Sounds like a social credit score. But is it? Is it just getting more things? In Japan, you'll usually get more things. You can have nothing or you can have more. Whereas the Chinese model, it's like you can have less or you can have nothing. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government today released the Tokyo Metropolitan Government official app, the Tokyo app. The service will begin with Tokyo residents participating in socially meaningful activities to accumulate points on the app, which then can be exchanged for points for private payment providers and used at stores or admission tickets to metropolitan facilities. In the future, the app will be gradually expanded in functionality to include various administrative procedures and service applications aiming to improve convenience for Tokyo residents. Yeah, you can get points to help you with digital paperwork. And this is from fiscal 2024. But in 2025, they are adding 3 additional businesses. They will be adding tickets. You can get tickets for the Tono Gayato Garden and tickets for the Tokyo Waterfront Line water bus. And we'll expand our lineup in the future. There's health promotion events such as walking events and smartphone experience sessions for the elderly. And they will expand the scope of the program to include participations in various volunteer activities, metropolitan government policies on disaster prevention, the environment, welfare, etc., in cooperation with surveys conducted by the metropolitan government. Wow. So you can do all those things. You can volunteer away your time instead of going and making money at a job. And then maybe you two can have points that help you with government online procedures. To be honest, it's a lot better than punishing you and shaming you for walking across the street, or the facial recognition toilet paper dispensing machines that they got in some Beijing parks and things like that, where you scan your face and the toilet paper dispenser gives you 70 centimeters of toilet paper, and you take that into the old walled bucket, and if you need more, you have to wait for 10 minutes because it keeps your biometric data within the toilet paper dispensing machine for 10 minutes. After that, you can go back and scan your face again, and it will give you an additional 70 centimeters of toilet paper. I wouldn't like that. So maybe having like, is this like all a ruse? Like they're making things that are just nobody needs or wants, and then they say that they tried, but then we don't have to implement it. I always kind of have that hope. But this is coming to us from a place in Europe. And Europe is going full-blown authoritarian. I would say, like, Chinese are more free than the Europeans right now, to be honest with you. China, in the past 10 years, have gone down this route of insane green ideology, of wokeism, and of diversity, equity, and inclusion, like at every level all the time. And if you disagree slightly, then you are a far-right activist and you need to be shut down. And these new brand of left-wingers, and I was a left-winger until 2015, they are very emotional and also righteous. And they believe that they've already arrived at this moral end where now the end justifies the means. Like I've already morally been transported into a future of equality, but this future of equality that I got to based on my morals doesn't exist yet. Therefore, anything that interferes with my politics that helped me arrive in this utopia that I live in mentally but don't live in physically, everything else is preventing that physical utopia from coming to fruition. Therefore, it is my responsibility to make sure that nothing interferes with the past catching up with the future. And the future is me. Like, that's kind of the way they think. And I've hung around with these people all my life. I had to spend a lot of time, removing them from my life. It sucked. Lost a lot of friends, but I couldn't do it. I actually felt the spirit of this flea. It was walking outside of Shiodome area in Tokyo. And this is when everything kind of went from blatant racism and like Save the Whales, which was kind of a left-wing position in 2015. And then it all became about trans and Trump. You had to love the LGBTQ plus. Then it was really the T plus that you had to love. And you had to hate Trump. And that's just what it transferred into. And I was listening to this, and at first I was kind of into it. But then I was walking along, and I felt like, whew, it just left my body. And I was like, yeah, that's different. I don't want to get off all these bandwagons that I'm already on and just jump to the next one. I'm done. That's the path. Anyway, so let's take a look at what's going on in Europe. This comes to us from a X post by a guy whose name is Dries van Lagenhove. And he's talking about this other aspect of social credit score that's going on in Europe right now. And I know this is the Japan Web podcast, but with what we just looked at with the Tokyo application, if these methodologies are spreading around the world and they're seeping into our phones wherever we go, we have to be aware of what's happening over the horizon, so that when that horizon of time meets us, we're not caught flat-footed by it. Or we have to have the knowledge to prevent these things from happening so that you can protest it a little bit and, move the Overton window or maintain the Overton window in a favorable position. So it's an information dichotomy. And if you don't have the information, you don't have the dichotomy. The dangers of AI are abstract for many people, but for me, they are very real. This is, of course, coming from Dries van Lagenhoven. In 2 weeks, I face years in prison because of the government used an AI tool on a group chat I was allegedly a member of, and which was literally called shitposting. Of course, in the past 10 years, everybody like me, who was traditionally on the left and was kind of shoved out of it, or shoved out and then ran away from. We like to send each other memes on anonymous accounts, on group chats and things like that. And they're mean. They're horrible, but they're hilarious. And we call it shitposting. But we couldn't do it online anymore. And now we can't even do it in private because the government is using AI to go into these things to root out the enemies it is relentlessly seeking. Because like I said, they are already in a moral superior position based on the future that they are already in. And anybody that opposes or anybody that stands in the way of that future from developing in their perspective must be gotten rid of. Their AI tool gave every message a toxicity score and concluded most of the messages were toxic. One of my alleged messages was, so this is the guy talking, it's not Japan What, it's not Matthew Bigelow, this is quoting from the dude. The dude abides. Some cultures are inferior, backwards cultures that still practice female genital mutilation, for example. That's the quote. I don't like female genital mutilation, and until 2015, it was okay to say that. But you know who practices that, and that's the new client group. This message got a 100 out of 100 toxicity score, and 100 out of 100 for sexism, and 100 out of 100 for racism. Yes, this was considered racist, sexist, and toxic by the AI, which is a punishable offense in Belgium. Almost all of the messages the AI bot concluded to be toxic are completely wrong. Every sentence that included an African was deemed racist, for example. Every sentence with leftist tears got 100 out of 100 toxicity. He allegedly quoted a black journalist who said something racist, but the AI bot does not understand this and attributed the bot to the guy who wrote this segment, adding to the toxicity score that got me 1 year in jail and a 16,000 euro fine. There is no serious way to defend yourself against this, as the public prosecutor will use the total toxicity score as his evidence. His evidence? Instead of going over all the supposedly toxic quotes. The public prosecutor's definition of shitposts is also crazy. Quote, shitposts are deliberately insulting messages meant to provocate. End quote. My appeal. is next week. So that's what happens when you got these bureaucrats with AI tools. And I know how this works. You have a threshold on the AI, and the threshold is set to like 1. So the slightest thing happens, and now you go to jail. But if the threshold was set a lot higher and the quotes were flagged and sent to a group of diverse-minded people for review, well, that would be another way of doing it that would have most of this stuff dismissed. But what they're trying to do is they're just trying to create an AI program that leaves no fingerprints on the evaluation, and therefore you are able to get rid of your political enemies and put them in gulags, digital gulags, or physical gulags. And that's what's going on in Europe right now. It's horrible. They're going down. They're not in a good position. 15 years ago, the UK was like one of the centers for game development. They had like a burgeoning field. Vancouver, BC as well was like one of the 3 top production zones in North America. It was like Los Angeles, New York, and then Vancouver. Now, what are these places known for? Same thing with Europe. They're just trying to regulate the hell out of everybody while bringing in millions and millions of people that live off of benefits. And if it worked, it worked, but it's not working, guys. So there's these degrees in which we operate here with these new digital systems. And perhaps going back to the Tokyo Metropolitan official app, Tokyo app, maybe having senior sessions where you teach them about smartphones or go around picking up garbage. If this is the type of technology that's going to filter into our lives, maybe the Tokyo app version is the way to use it. You can download it if you want. You can participate in it if you want. You get points if you do something, and you can use those points for something. So it's not trying to fine you 16,000 euros and send you into a jail for shit posting. It's just trying to encourage good behavior if you want to. So these are the dichotomies we need to look at, and these are the horizons that are approaching us fast. Moving on to a different topic here within the Japan Society 5.0 field. I'm just going to play the horns. Crazy. Right now, there's so much going on with international AI that I do most of the AI research for the Japan What podcast in Japanese and translate it using machine learning. But even a lot of that is international AI, like Grok just released a large language model update, and there's OpenAI, and there's all these things going on. But so I just try to find some more domestic news sources. And the first one is very domestic. Mabuchi Motor introduces generative AI service for in-house operations to all domestic bases. Mabuchi Motor has been using AI since October 2024 to automate indirect work within the company. What does Mabuchi Motor do? I kind of know, but Mabuchi Motor. Let's just get, what is it? It's a Japanese company that manufactures and sells small electric motors. It is the world's largest manufacturer of small electric motors by volume. Founded in 1954 by Kenichi Mabuchi, developing small DC motors since 1947. Okay. That's what it's known for. The aim of the use of AI is to increase the productivity of indirect work and create an environment where employees can focus on work with a higher degree and added value. As of December 2024, the company has reduced 9,500 hours, or 2.5% of total working hours. The generative AI service is used for aggregating survey results, creating programmable code, correcting business reports and documents, translating email documents exchanged with overseas bases and clients. And they will also use prompt templates, which are provided to improve the accuracy of responses, even with simple information input. The tasks performed by the generative AI are tabulated by category, and the time saved is visualized on a dashboard. This allows the system to grasp how much costs have been saved in terms of labor costs and implementation costs, and is also used to plan and implement measures to increase the system's usage rate within the company. I think that's going to be fine. This is a LLM as well, And it just simplified the operations there. 2.5% for a major company. That's huge. 9,500 working hours for a machine manufacturer. It's a good saving just by having a chatbot in the computer. Moving on. AI cameras used to guide traffic construction sites. Traffic at construction sites. In a trial introduced in Rifu, Miyagi. When I first moved to Japan, every construction site would have probably 12 dudes sitting around waving cars through, or there'd just be like 2 guys digging a hole and like 15 guys around the hole. And that was very common. But now it's not because of the labor shortage, because of the population plummeting. In order to address the shortage of traffic control personnel at road construction sites, Miyagi Prefecture conducted a trial introduction at a traffic control system using AI-equipped cameras on a prefectural road in Rifu town on the 13th and 14th of February 2025. This is the first time the system has been tested in the prefecture. The system monitors traffic conditions with AI cameras installed at both ends of the construction section, which is a one-way alternating traffic, and guides traffic with LED display boards. It can determine the timing of signal switching depending on the congestion situation, and can also give priority to emergency vehicles such as ambulances. An explanatory meeting was held on the 14th during the trial, and blah, blah, blah. So those jobs suck. They're pretty dangerous too. A lot of people get run over by them. You might be guiding somebody past you, and you turn around and take a step back, but a car's there. Boom. Smushed into the road. But having these analytics for traffic that it's coming and going, you'll be able to manage that flow better. Makes sense to me. Let's take a look here. Newsweek, the dreaded Newsweek. I hate Newsweek. But a project to install AI cameras to prevent shoplifting at 15 24-hour unmanned awful stores will begin on February 5th. So awful in this case, it's not AWFUL, as in disgusting. It's awful, OFFAL, as in tripe and organs. So there's this store that it's unmanned. It's an unmanned organ store, and you can go in and get your organs and cook them up, like, tripe or stomach lining and liver or intestines and stuff like that. So there's these unmanned awful stores, but too many people are stealing the organs. So they're putting these AI cameras in there to prevent the shoplifting. Isn't this insane? The store is about a 7-minute walk from the south exit of Kiyose Station on the Seibu Ikebukuro line. They sell frozen meat, focusing on domestic and Wagyu beef. The concept is to be able to enjoy the taste of high-end yakiniku restaurant easily and casually at home. This 24-hour unmanned horumon, or awful, direct sales store, you can buy anytime, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. However, there's been a lot of shoplifting there, and they're always having to work with the police. Shoplifting also increases other crimes because it attracts more and more criminals. So they're using the cameras to prevent the shoplifting, but also to prevent a wider increase of crime within the area. So they have like 4 or 5 AI cameras in the store, 1 camera outside of the store, and they're using this to prevent people from stealing their delicious Wagyu or from going in and shoving a couple of frozen cow stomachs up their sleeves and walking out surreptitiously as if nothing ever happened. Next, Daitaku releases 2025 Generative AI Trends Report. Now we get into one of the main focuses here, and this is the AI agents. I'm still freaked out by AI agents, by the way, because there's going to be hundreds of millions of them in the next few years deployed all throughout all of the computer systems all over the earth by anybody who has a business. You're going to start using them. And now the trajectory of everybody who's in university right now and who will have gone through university for the next 15 years has been irrevocably changed because the AI agents will be able to do most of the jobs that university graduates will be able to do. And these are the university graduates with the useful degrees, not the useless degree that I have in professional writing and poetry and stuff like that. These are the coders and the researchers and the lawyers. These people are going to be out of a job a lot faster than the taxi drivers. Those AI cars, the self-driving cars, are not around us, but because of regulatory reasons. They're dangerous. But you can just download an AI agent into your computer or simply access one via the cloud. And now you have a legal expert floating around your computer systems, letting you know what's up. Let's begin here. On February 19th, Daitaku Japan released its Generative AI Trends Report for 2025. As generative AI becomes commoditized, the report emphasizes that AI agents will be a key factor in determining a company's competitive advantage. According to the report, AI agents are not just data analysis tools, but have the potential to dramatically increase business value for companies by autonomously performing tasks and accelerating decision-making. Gartner predicts that by 2028, at least 15% of daily decisions will be made autonomously through AI agents. I don't know who Gartner is. Maybe it's going to tell us. AI agents are already redefining the rules of business, and companies need to take proactive action to gain competitive advantage, said Florian Doneto, CEO of Daitaku. The survey, which polled 400 data analytics and IT executives and 200 C-suite executives, found that 66% of respondents have invested more than $1 million in generative AI in the past 12 months. And 88% of organizations plan to increase their investments in 2025. Meanwhile, 85% reported increased pressure from their C-suite to quantify the return on investment of generative AI. Additionally, 73% of companies are using a hybrid approach to manage multiple large-scale language models. 75% of executives are concerned about data privacy violations, but 81% have a medium or high level of trust in the use of generative AI. So that's going to be that for now. Of course, the concern is like upskilling employees, because employees need to be AI literate to avoid being replaced by AI, and they need to prepare for the demands and opportunities of an AI-driven economy, according to this website. An interesting idea here is that, well, if all of these companies have invested $1 million into AI, that's $1 million they haven't invested into people. And so as more and more AI agents are being invested in, the companies deploying these AI agents potentially like that are using OpenAI or Grok or these various subscription models, the subscription models or the top of the chain of the AI infrastructure, such as OpenAI with ChatGPT, they will be receiving the lion's share of a company's investment into its workforce as opposed to people. So I've said this before, but an AI agent doesn't need to go and spend money. The AI agent doesn't need to do anything. But the person, they would make $50,000, $100,000, whatever you want to say, and they would go to restaurants. They would spread it around to their family. They would buy new shoes for their kids, all these things. But these other institutions, they're just using software implemented via the cloud into millions and millions of computers and companies. And they're just creating a new pipeline of income streams that lead right back to OpenAI, which is Sam Altman, but which is also Bill Gates. So there's like this new monopolistic pressure being applied where you're just using an AI for your company, but you're turning away from entire generations of people at the same time that would spread that money around and reinvest it into their communities. But now, who knows where this money is going? It just goes into a company somewhere far away. It has nothing to do with you and your surroundings. It's crazy. Miyazaki Bank promotes its business by using AI-generated women as exclusive talent. They may still be active 100 years from now, according to NHK. Miyazaki Bank has appointed fictional women created by AI as talents. This would be for like promotional stuff. The exclusive AI talents are a female bank employee named Hinatoko and a woman with blue hair named Dream AI, which is inspired by the bank's symbolic color. AI talents are fictional characters that look like humans created using AI and other such technology, and they show natural expressions and movements as if they were real people. This has been a long time coming, and in fact, just with the aspect of AI video now, it's more and more feasible to use these things. A lot of these banks, when they invest into like a multi-year campaign into an idol to be the face of the bank, that idol might become embroiled in some sort of controversy, and then that rubs off on the bank. Now the bank is icky and gross, and they have to terminate the relationship and apologize to everybody. So by using the AI people, there's no human risk of hiring somebody just as their face to represent the beautiful bank, the big beautiful bank that never does anything wrong, and the people working there never do anything wrong, and all of the executives with all of their power never do anything wrong. But they hire somebody who does something wrong, and they have to say, "Oh, we're so sorry that person did something wrong. We will terminate their contract." But now with AI, don't need to do that because those people, they are not real, but they look real, but they're not real. I wonder if this is going to fly. I don't care. I hate advertising. Another thing that I found, not necessarily connected to Japan, but related to AI agents, Firecrawl. This is just an image that was posted on X. And this is an advertisement for a job, but it's for AI agents only. Firewall Example Creator. This is the title of the job for AI agents only. It pays $10,000 to $15,000 a year for work in the US. And it says, please apply only if you are an AI agent or if you created an AI agent that can fill this job. We are seeking an AI agent capable of autonomously researching trending technologies and models, and then using that for information to create, test, and refine high-quality example applications. These sample apps will live in our Firecrawl Examples repository, showcasing the full potential of Firecrawl and real-world scenarios. Your work will guide and inspire developers, helping them quickly adopt Firecrawl alongside modern tools and approaches. That's just gobbledygook to me. But they're now advertising. It's like, 5-6 years ago, we're not hiring any white males here. We're going unmanned on this plane. Or, we are going to hire a bunch of people with crutches for a running company because there's underrepresented in the aggregate. Okay. But now it's just no humans. Now we just need AI agents only. How do you deal with that? On that note, I was buying a beer from a store once, and they had a product there called No Men. And I went, what? No Men? And it was like a cup of juice. And I looked at it, and men is like ramen. Men means noodles. So no men just mean no noodles. So it was just ramen juice, ramen broth in a cup. And you drink the ramen broth. I went, oh, yeah, no men, huh? And the guy behind the counter, and I was like, no men, 面白いね. 差別と思ったけど. I thought it was discriminatory, but it's not. And he responded in perfect English. He was like, I know. I was like, no man, what? And then I read it, and I was like, that's funny. And then I was like, what if it was called No Woman? Would that be funny? I'm like, no. That would be problematic. Moving on. This one's interesting. And it's very, I feel as if it's a very innovative approach from a Japanese AI provider. And this is called the GPU Cloud, an AI supercomputer cloud that supports AI development. So a lot of these new data centers going in have a lot of servers in them. Servers might be getting old, and a lot of these servers don't do AI training very well. So there's a company in Japan that has created GPU clouds. So what it does is it allows companies to, instead of developing or purchasing their own GPUs, they rent them out to do their AI training. And then once they're done with their AI training, they have the results and they go back and implement that into their company. And this comes to us from aismiley.co.jp. It's easy to use, low cost, and flexibility to expand the possibilities for use. This is an interview, and the person, the CEO of this company, his name is Fukushima. For those of outside of Japan, Fukushima is a somewhat common name. It just means lucky island, so it doesn't mean the Daiichi, the nuclear power plant. And this is an interview, and just one of the answers, it says, our services are specialized for research and development purposes, and the data center equipment itself reflects this specification. Therefore, we reduce initial and running costs by avoiding the introduction of excessive equipment. In addition, the platform itself is completely specialized for calculation processing, which allows us to achieve low prices. In addition, the GPU-dedicated data center for AI development, which opened in Kagawa Prefecture in December 2024, has been certified as part of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry's Cloud Program Supply Assurance Plan and has received up to 7.7 billion yen in support. We believe that the reason for our GPU cloud service is so low cost is because we can make effective use of its support and provide it to our customers as a service. And it's used in a wide range of fields, of course, including IT, manufacturing, construction, and university research institutes. Recently, it has also been adopted by many companies for applications that require computational power, such as training generative AI and fine-tuning large language models. All right, I'm not going to leave it there. It's just the links for this will be up at MatthewPMBigelow.com. It's a pretty good interview. I recommend you reading it, and it's just this. This company got into the GPU cloud services like 5 or 6 years ago before it became so mainstream. So they were ahead of the game, and now they have the infrastructure lying in wait for the market opportunities that are arising around them. And they seem to be doing pretty good. It's called GPU Soroban. GPU Soroban. A first in Japan, another one from AI Smiley. Genetic testing equipped with AI search function. Teach me AI search, Chat Genie. So it's Chat Genie. And of course, genie means gene or genome. Kaon Health has announced genetic testing equipped with AI search function. The new features make it easier to use 500 genetic trends, 6 special contents, ancestry and ethnicity analysis, and more. Through dialogue with an AI concierge, people will be able to understand their genetic tendencies and explore how they can be applied to their daily lives. So, I'm not sure what this all means, to be honest. You can receive daily advice while talking, so you can use the results as if you were consulting an expert about your genes. Furthermore, since they will answer even vague questions, it is not just a simple search, but also a fun and exciting conversation. This feature uses ChatGPT. All right, another one. So will ChatGPT receive all the information about my genes? Is this genetic warfare? New Tomei, moving on from that. New Tomei Expressway's self-driving cars will use 5G to cut costs, aiming to replace dedicated networks. The only reason I'm including this here is to say that a lot of people thought 5G was a technological flop. 5G of like 5 or 6 years ago was marketed to the consumer as you'll be able to download movies in 1 second. But by that time, everybody was streaming and live streaming, and movies aren't as popular as they used to be. So 4G is basically fine enough for our daily use, but 5G will be needed for remote operation surgeries in hospitals and things like that, or having people come in remotely to assist with surgeries with expertise and things like that through an avatar, through whatever kind of avatar that would be. It could be just popping into a camera that's positioned into an operating room, or it could be via hologram if they're equipped with headsets and things like that, which some hospital units were a few years ago, because it allows you to what interestingly with surgery using holographic headsets, instead of having all of the patient's information on screens behind you as you're operating, you can manipulate the screens and position them around the incision that you're making to understand the patient's medical history as you're doing operations on them in real time. And then if like there's a doctor in Russia that is a potential, like a particular expert in the kind of operation that you're doing, they might be able to teleport into your room, and you can consult with them while you're doing your operation. And that doctor would also be able to see via their hologram lens that they're using in Russia or whatever, see all the patient information displayed on these digital screens, like digital holograms that are positioned around the patient and things like that. So that's kind of what 5G is for. And it's also for self-driving cars on the highways. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications will begin a demonstration project for autonomous driving using high-speed communication standard 5G in fiscal 2025. The project will be carried out at level 4, which allows autonomous driving under remote monitoring. The project will verify whether existing 5G can supplement part of the dedicated communication network that is essential for safe driving. The project will lead to the development of new uses for 5G. Autonomous driving requires constant and stable communication to ensure safety. A dedicated communication network is built along the road to ensure communication is not interrupted. However, the construction of the dedication network is very costly. It goes on from there. It's from behind a paywall, but if you're wondering, like, 5G was just stupid. Yeah, it's been implemented, and now they're trying to figure out ways to use it on the infrastructural level for self-driving cars, for, like I said, remote surgeries, and all of these other things that require huge amounts of data and then can exist in a spectrum that isn't being overly utilized by a population addicted to their smartphones. And that's what 4G is for. Moving on. Japanese factory to produce Chinese-developed AI robots. They plan to produce 300 units per month. When I first moved to Japan, Thailand and China were factories. They had factories there producing Japanese goods. But now the tables have turned. Japan has factories that are going to be producing Chinese-developed AI robots. Now that is a shift. That is a shift. Starting in February 2025, Kuramoto Manufacturing began contracting to manufacture at its domestic factory of a cleaning robot developed by a Chinese company using AI. This is translated by Google, and it's from Japanese originally, so it's not exactly smoothed out. The commercial cleaning robot, developed by China's iWith Smart Technology, uses AI to avoid obstacles while in operation, generate cleaning paths, and detect areas with lots of trash. Kuramoto Manufacturing will manufacture 50 units per month at its Hanaizumi factory in Ichinoseki Prefecture in Iwate, Ichinoseki City in Iwate Prefecture, and the plan is to eventually increase this to 300 units. Japanese customers tend to want Japanese products, and this company responds to that need by making Chinese robots in Japan. Furthermore, if the product is manufactured domestically, it is easier for customers to take advantage of subsidies, such as the Small and Medium Enterprise Labor-Saving Investment Subsidy, when introducing the product. For this reason, iWith Robots, which handles the development, sales, and maintenance service of iWith Robots for the domestic market, was looking for ways to manufacture the robots in Japan. So a Chinese company comes in, uses subsidies, puts a made in Japan label on it, and makes off like bandits with all the money. Smart, huh? But that's crazy. It's crazy how Japan is just not doing this themselves. Chubu Electric Power cuts infrastructure inspection time by 80% nationwide with drones and AI. So moving on to the drone section here, and that'll be the last one. So Chubu Electric Power Grid will commercialize infrastructure maintenance and inspection using drones and AI nationwide. The service will begin targeting communication towers and bridges. Image analysis will quickly detect abnormalities, leading to early repairs and reducing the time required for inspections by 80%. The company will use its diagnostic know-how for transmission towers to help combat the deterioration of infrastructure nationwide. The company has partnered with Seisin Robotics, a drone-related software company, for this endeavor. It's about time this is happening. I hope Japan can eventually make its own drones. It needs to. Otherwise, we're going to be screwed. Because people will just say, what if they start sanctioning drones? Sorry, you're a sanctioned country. You can't buy drones from anybody. You have to make it yourself, basically. But I followed this company in Taiwan that was doing something similar. And they had this really innovative way to maintain maintenance operations, because they would fly these drones under these massive highways on bridges with like a river underneath them. And frequently what would happen would the drone would lose connection and get lost by being underneath so much concrete. But they realized that if they put a camera on they already had a camera on the drone, but if they aimed the camera up, they would be able to see where the drone was in relation to the edge of the bridge and the sky above it. And the drone would be able to navigate along those types of degrees, and instead of always having to rely on somebody connected with an FPV drone. So you'd be able to kind of automate operations by having a visual representation within the drone itself, rather than relying on external maps and stuff like that. Pretty interesting. It would have a map inside of it, of the bridge that it was monitoring for like cracks and stuff like that. And by comparing like the edge of the bridge with the sky above it and overlaying it, or comparing it with the map that it had installed internally, the drone was able to perform operations as usual. So I'm glad that Japan is moving in this direction, because we desperately need it. Another one would be AI automatically creates drone inspection results for solar panels. Again, another one that's probably good. I was told that green jobs would involve humans working with solar panels, but no, that's just going to be all AI with drones. I'm not going to go into this article too much because it's obviously the same as the previous article, but just replace inspection for electric power infrastructure with drone inspecting solar panels. It's the same thing. You just have a different profile. Another one, KDDI Smart Drone and 2 other companies conduct demonstration experiment of remote ship bottom inspection using combined water and air drone. Again, you'd have to normally have people diving underneath these ships to do maintenance operations or look for things, but now submersible drones. I've even seen some drones that have like dual propellers on the top and the bottom. So once it pops above the water, the above rotors can pull the drone out of the water, and now it becomes airborne. So it's like these dual use submersible plus airborne style drones. But anyways, just using these for maintenance with cameras and things like that with some computer vision in there just makes nothing but sense. That's going to be Japan what? Society 5.0 for today. Just a little bit of review there. A lot of technical stuff for today, but that's really where the Japan Society 5.0, where the rubber meets the road. There's the draconian stuff and like the social credit stuff, which is like the terrifying stuff. But then there's all these things like manufacturing AI robots, putting 5G along the highways for self-driving cars, stuff like that. And that's really where most of this stuff is going to affect our lives in the future. Although that posting, the shit posting online, that's a little bit terrifying. I hope Japan does not go that road. I prefer the road, actually, of just putting things on the road that make the technology work rather than creating these Machiavellian institutions that just aim to consistently monitor your political rivals so that you destroy them wherever they go. It's a sick process, which is going on in those areas of the world. And I'd much rather have drones inspecting things than some bureaucrat looking through a chat of mine for something that would offend them so that they could throw me in prison for years.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0, a technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving.
All right, so that's going to be the show for today. I'm going to leave you with a song generated by AI, and it's based on the headlines from today's podcast. Please remember to go to MatthewPMBigelow.com and see some photos there based on today's show. And you can also review all the links there as well. And if you're interested in donations, we have Matthew Bigelow's donation profile thing going on there at paypal.me/JapanWUT. That's paypal.me/JapanWUT. All right, that's going to be it for today. Until, actually, I'll play this song and then I'll come back and close out the show.
Japan quietly slips a fourth Hibiki class hull into the sea's tight grip, silent as a blade, while China's navy suddenly swells. 100 ships, maybe just half again, threading carelessly the Pacific's fraying hem. Subsea cables snap off Taiwan's rocky shelf. Coast Guard eyes drift toward those shadowed hulls. Postponement's illusion. It's not in the future, it's happening now on the Japanwood podcast. Fukuoka, 7 cities hastily brace. 47,000 souls to harbor there. If war ignites the narrow strait. AI cameras bloom and refuse dusty dust, steering traffic through construction snarl aloud, while kiosks are full shops, unmanned, unblinking, pin shoplifters with silicone cruel stares. A European man rots in a dank cell, his words snagged by algorithms' jagged teeth. Postponement's illusion. It's not in the future, it's happening now on the Japanwood podcast. Miyazaki back conjures women from raw code. Chubu's drone slash time from steel and vast sky. Kuromoto churns out 300 bright shells for minds not born but built.
All right, and that's going to be Japan What Podcast, episode 200. Until next time, I bid thee a very warmful and heartful Mata.
You